This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 15 of the Jumbothink Podcast.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumbothink Podcast. We explore the ideas and dreams behind some of the leading entrepreneurs from around the world. Along the way, we will give you some tips and ideas of how you can chase your own big ideas and dreams and change the world around you. Our guest on today's episode is Milana Leshinsky. More about Milana in a moment. Our guest on Monday's episode is Mark Mawhinney. Here's a sneak peek into Monday's episode.
My name is Mark Mawhinney. I'm with Natural Born Coaches, and I am the founder of the business. Yeah, so I knew that this is what I wanted to do right around early 2014. My big idea and dream actually came from the ashes of a business closure in real estate, and I spent some time in the wilderness deciding what business to start next, and I was helped by several coaches and mentors, which got me into the business of being a coach. What I do matters because coaches are very important for people. They can affect people's lives and make a lot of change for good in the world, but not a lot of people know about what coaches can do. So I'm all about getting that message out there and getting more people hiring coaches.
Make sure to come back and check out episode 16 with Mark Mawhinney on Monday. Now let's jump into today's episode and learn more about Milana Leshinsky. Hey there, welcome to the Jumbothink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward, and I am your host. I am so excited about today's guest. Her name is Milana Leshinsky. Super fun episode. So let's learn a little bit more about Milana.
My name is Milana Leshinsky, and I am the founder and the owner of simplicitycircle.com. Simplicity Circle is a company that focuses on simplicity entrepreneurship, which says that growing a business and scaling your business should be as simple as possible. And you can grow and scale without the cost of your independence, peace of mind, health, wellness, relationships, your sleep, and all the things that might be affected by being an entrepreneur. The idea for Simplicity Circle came to me when I left another company, which was a business partnership, a little over a year ago, where I started feeling like it was time to move on, and everything felt so uninspiring to me and so complex. And I saw the complexity of everything that was happening in our industry, in the space of coaches, authors, speakers, experts. And I saw that complexity for what it was, because the online marketing, it's been over 2 decades. There's so many tools and methods out there that my brain, my whole being started seeking more simplicity. And I discovered that I am not alone. Significance and purpose are extremely important to me, but I didn't realize that until I ended up leaving the company that I mentioned earlier. And that is because the company was producing over $1 million in sales. And yet I woke up every day in the last few months asking myself, is this all there is? And clearly I was missing something. And when I left and realized that I need more, that money is great, but that is so not enough. That making $1 million does not necessarily feel like being a millionaire, suddenly winning a lottery. And I started looking for something else. And I am grateful for having music, which is my background. As a classically trained music teacher, I came from Soviet Union over 25 years ago. I came back to it. And I realized that that is something that was so important to me, and yet I stopped doing it. And I'm grateful to have that piece of my life still bring meaning and significance into my life. In the darkest moment, music absolutely saves me. I think simplicity is significant right now, especially and extremely relevant, because people are hugely overwhelmed. Both people who started their businesses many years ago, like myself, and people who are brand new and they're trying to enter the business world online. They are overwhelmed. There are thousands of ways to grow your business, and nobody can grow their business in 1,000 of different ways. So what I started doing is really helping people discern between all the strategies that they need to look at or that they come into their view and determine what is the right methodology for them to grow a business. So simplicity is all about figuring out what works for you based on your personality, based on your desired lifestyle, based on your natural abilities, what I call super skills, and then design your business around that. That is what I call simplicity. And the people that have been exposed to my work are absolutely loving it, including people who've been doing business for many decades. As I'm working to grow this new company, because I've had many different businesses over the years, I started many and I sold some of them. I am realizing that I'm still being influenced by a lot of gurus, quote unquote gurus out there, people that I admire, people that I watch, people who advise me, whether it's solicited or not, and trying to discern the ideas for myself, which is why it's critical for me to have my own filter. I call it my simplicity filter. It's so easy to be influenced by people that you admire, by people who are successful, because you see their success and you think, this is what they're doing. I'm going to do the same and it's going to work for me. But many times it doesn't. And so one of the biggest challenges for me is to really look at everything that comes into my world and determine whether it's going to work for me, where it's going to drain me or energize me, whether it's going to keep me interested and motivated and inspired, and it contains my why, or it's something that I'm doing only because I want to make more money. So that balance is definitely a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. What I would love to see as the next big goal in my business is, yes, I want to make money in my business. That is the definition of a business, exchanging services and products for financial compensation. The most important thing for me as my goal is to build something that I will absolutely love running as a business, that will make my heart sing every single day. As many no's as I can give people will drive me to more yeses, around the areas that I will absolutely be drawn to and be excited. So the bigger area of my focus right now is to create something that I will actually love. I've been doing so many things that I didn't love in the last few years that it's become clear to me that unless I love it, I'm not even gonna make it a profitable venture either. There's a very direct connection there. I'll be stopped by anything when I don't love something, and that's true for many people. So when you love something, you will overcome any obstacles, any challenges. You'll find the resources you need to do it. When you don't love it and you're doing it because somebody else told you, because you're seeing someone else being successful with that, but it's not really connecting to you personally, that's when you're going to be stopped. So my goal is to create a business that is full of meaning and significance for me personally, and to make money.
We'll be right back with the interview portion of today's episode with Milana Leshinsky. There are so many ways to connect with the JumboThink podcast, and we want to hear from you. The simplest way to do it is swing on over to jumbothinkcom, and you can find some of the best ways you can connect. You can find links to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. You can also find links to our social channels, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. As always, make sure you click that follow or subscribe button so you never miss another update from the JumboThink podcast. Now let's jump into our interview with Milana Leshinsky. I am super excited about today's guest. Milana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me here.
It is not often that I get to talk to someone on the podcast that isn't all that far from me. How are you enjoying this Northeast weather this year?
I think I'm kind of getting used to it.
Okay.
Somebody who is coming from a cold part of the world, I have learned to accept whatever weather comes at me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you talked about coming from a cold climate, and I was fascinated by your story of coming to the United States. You came from Kiev to New York, and tell us a little bit about that journey, because it was an adventure, to say the least.
Yeah, so I was 19 when I left Soviet Ukraine. And it's funny when people congratulate me and pat me on the back, so to speak, for making that decision. But the truth is, I didn't make the decision. My parents did.
Okay.
We applied in 1990, and we had to
Wow.
wait for 2 years to receive permission to enter. And the day that we actually got the letter in the mail, that confirmed that we were being accepted as refugees, that's the day I was actually fired from my job as a music
Wow.
teacher. And
Oh my goodness.
I was extremely upset. And the reason I was fired is because I had to go to the American embassy, but I
Okay.
couldn't tell the school director why I had to leave because we were trying to keep it all a secret.
Yeah.
And so as a result of me being missing from the classroom and I couldn't explain it without lying, I was let go. And so I was
Wow.
very upset. And then on the way upstairs to my apartment, my dad reached a mailbox and we got that letter. And I was like, it was all worth it. I had relief from knowing that I didn't just lose a job, but I gained this amazing opportunity.
Going from the known to the unknown, I'm sure that helped spark your journey of discovering how to learn what you need to do to survive, but also to flourish.
I think I was too naive at that time to worry about the unknownness of this
Okay.
new life. I think I still felt like the responsibility of survival laid with my parents,
Yeah.
with my husband, who was 8 years older. We got married very quickly before leaving to America because I was madly in love, and there was no way that I was going to leave my boyfriend at the time and leave to another, go to another country. So we got married and came together. So I really didn't feel the pressure of having to survive. The way I think I saw it was more like an experience, an adventure, an opportunity to be in this country that was portrayed in my childhood years as evil.
Wow.
And so I was discovering many things about the people, the country, the customs. I remember we arrived to October 22nd, and of course, a week later, everybody started walking in these weird outfits, and I was confused what was happening. There was a mailman wearing a vampire cape. So not speaking English yet. I was very confused, very disoriented, very out of place. But I think the age went in my favor. I have no idea how my parents did this. My
Wow.
parents were in their early and mid 40s,
Wow.
where I am right now. And so I have no idea how they saw everything, how they had to adjust. But to me, it was just a lot of fun.
That's incredible. It's definitely inspiring because I think so often we are put into situations that are unexpected or we're afraid to take the leap. But when you kind of have that leap chosen for you, you get to have a different experience. And it's really cool to hear how you said being naive, but also just this different world and how it looked and felt different than what you had experienced. And yet you were able to adapt and grow and figure it out along the way.
I think, as I'm listening to you talk, Michael, I feel like a lot of times in my life, decisions have been made for me.
Okay.
Meaning that the circumstances forced me to deal with the situation and then to adapt to it, right?
Yeah.
So the very first experience I had was the fact that I couldn't really continue my music career here.
Yeah.
It just wasn't realistic. I actually got accepted into Syracuse University in the music department, and I was thrilled. And then I discovered that I had to pay for it. And of course, we had no money.
Yeah.
And the decision was made for me that I'm not going to be able to continue here.
Wow.
And so I had to give piano lessons for $6 per lesson for a little while just to get some extra income. And then eventually switch my focus and my life away from music into business administration and later computer programming. And so I have a bachelor's in computer information systems, which like that thing by itself is almost hilarious to my family, who know that I am not a programmer. I am so not a computer programmer. My mom is, and my brother is, and now my son is.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not. So it was,
Yeah.
but it gave me a start. It gave me that security.
It's really cool. I want to pivot here and talk about something I'm super passionate about, and it's a passion of yours, and it excites me to get to talk about that, and that's the world of simplicity. You have something you call the simplicity principle. Can you tell us about it and give us a little insight into what your ebook is all about?
Yes. So the simplicity principle is this idea that everything should be as simple as possible and no simpler. And of course, that comes from Albert Einstein. What Einstein didn't refer to at the time was that he didn't address the question, what is simple?
Yeah.
That's the question I spent the last 18 months researching as far as entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And if you ask, depending on who you ask, you'll get a different answer. I've done a lot of surveying. I have 1,500 responses from entrepreneurs. What does simplicity mean to you? And people's answers vary from, well, simple steps, something that's simple, to, as little as possible, to, well, it just means minimalism, only using or doing as little as you possibly need.
Right.
And all of that is correct. Obviously, that is simple. And, keeping your business small and simple also is a definition for a lot of people, like keeping themselves small versus growing a big team and so on. But what I discovered that what's simple to one person is complex to another.
Yeah.
When I saw that, I mean, it's obvious, right? It's obvious. It's absolutely clear as day that some things are simple to some people and they're complex to other people.
Yeah.
But in business, for whatever reason, people don't think about it that way. They see somebody doing something, they try to do it, but because it's not simple to them, they fail.
Yeah.
And so simplicity comes from understanding your unique, natural super skills.
Okay.
Where results come with ease.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, your business feels simple to you. So simplicity is all about how it feels to you personally. For example, I can do a product launch in my sleep. It is simple to me, not only because I've done it before, but because I quickly and naturally see the arc of where the launch starts and where it's going to go and all the pieces of content and marketing that need to be created in between. To me, it is a joy to develop a product launch. To someone else, the product launch, actually to majority of people I know, product launch is as complex as it can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the other hand, networking to me is complex. To somebody, it just looks like going to a meeting and hanging out with people. To me, it is, well, what do I say if they ask me, what do I do? What if there are a bunch of group of people and I can't relate to them or I can't understand what they do? What do I do? So for me, networking looks like this. I walk in the room and I sit in the corner and I wait for maybe somebody approaching me. As an introvert, it is also a challenge for me. But that's the idea, is that some things are simple to you and they are complex to others. And understanding what is simple to you is the key to your simplicity-driven business.
Yeah. I think it was like Duke Ellington that said simplicity is the most complex form. In the world that I work in, I own a web development company. We are constantly saying we're overcomplicating solutions for our clients. How do we simplify this process for building what they need to accomplish their goals? Simplicity seems to be something that can actually be harder to be done because of the intentional choices you have to make to be simple, and compared to doing complex systems, which usually complexity comes from a place of not being intentional and just kind of going with the flow sometimes. Can you share a little bit about maybe some steps that you can take complex things and simplify them?
I'm so glad that you said that, because I was thinking about a TED talk, right, where you're limited to 20 minutes. Most people can ramble on and on for hours, but ask them to condense that to a 20-minute presentation that has a clear message and a compelling story. And now you got $1,000 worth of coaching that you need to go through to achieve that result, right? Like speech coach, presentation coach, business coach, message coach, story coach. That's kind of how it looks in my world. People hire coaches for whatever they need to accomplish. But, to achieve simplicity, I think it's really important to ask yourself, what is the most important thing to you or things to you? And I actually talk about this idea of a simplicity filter.
Okay.
Where whatever comes at you, whatever you receive in your world, whether it's an email or an advertisement or a piece of advice from somebody, you have a simplicity filter that allows you to discern what it is that will make sense to you, what it is that you are going to find that supports your desired lifestyle, business goals, what your day is going to look like, what kind of clients you're going to work with. So in that respect, simplicity is all about knowing what you want. But to actually simplify a complex concept, I think that requires a lot of clarity in your thinking.
Okay.
I don't remember who said, I think it's also Einstein who said that if you can't explain it clear enough, it means that you yourself don't understand it.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Right?
Yeah.
So, of course, there's this whole idea of communication style. Sometimes my son is trying to explain to me electrical engineering concepts, and it doesn't matter how much he simplifies it, I still look at him like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
But in most circumstances, you can absolutely bring a complex topic or a complex thing down to the most essentials. You're basically taking out the details. In fact, the details are what complicate things. And understanding when is the right time to share, and how much detail to share something, that is a skill. Especially it's important for a marketer.
Yeah.
When you are trying to market something, how much detail do you really want to share with the customer, with a potential customer? Yeah. Well, just enough to get them to buy into the idea that they need this item or that they need this product.
Yeah.
Try to share too many details and the prospect is going to feel lost, inadequate sometimes, and walk away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that understanding of how much detail to reveal to somebody, and also seeing the bigger picture, right? Like I can easily explain a product launch. You can easily explain podcasting because we see the big picture. We understand it as a whole venture.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of, like, as you're sharing, Nike came to mind and how simple their message was. Here's a picture of a person doing something, playing basketball, going skiing, running, whatever it is. And all they have to say is just do it.
Right.
And they've encapsulated the entire message of, these are the things you want to be doing. We can help you do it. Just go do it. And I think that's powerful to be able to take a message that can be so complex. We can help you be a better runner. We can help you play basketball better because our shoes are awesome, blah, blah, blah. They didn't go down that road. They went down just saying, this is what you want to do. Just go do it. Here's the shoes.
So just do it. It's like 3 tiny, shortest words in the world. Right? And they encapsulate a multi-million, billion-dollar company.
Right.
Right. One of the things that I do with people is I help them with their messaging. And that is a very frustrating area for most people.
Right.
Because then messaging leads to naming your products and programs and services, service packages. And so somebody will, a client will sit in front of me and say, well, what I'm trying to say is this and this and this, and then it'll go on and on and on. What I really believe is this and so. And then with one simple question, I turn that around for them. And usually this question works after a little bit of a process for, after a conversation where they had an opportunity to spill out all their thoughts and now their head is clear. So that question that I'm asking them is, John, what are you really trying to say?
Yeah.
And then suddenly their big idea pops up
Right.
because they're rambling and rambling and rambling because they don't quite yet have it as a single message. And after they're done, kind of like purged all of their thoughts on this topic, it all boils down to one question. So what are you really trying to say? Well, what I'm really trying to say is that raising successful kids, encouragement and discipline is not enough.
Yeah.
Suddenly that comes out as a clear message. And he rambled on for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I remember as a teenager, I had a youth pastor that was helping me with communicating messages clearly. And I remember an exercise where he'd be like, write it all down. So I'd write it all down. And I'd come back to him and he'd go, okay, simplify it. You've written 5 pages, write 1 page. Okay, great. Write 1 paragraph now. Okay, great. Write 1 line. And it's just amazing how you can take something that feels like it's so vast and boil it down to 1 line or one thing that communicates much better than the entire paper did, and really communicate back the heartbeat of what you're trying to say, the message of what you're trying to say, and really get to the point where it just penetrates right into the person where they're like, I get it.
And I actually discovered a secret to doing this successfully.
Yeah.
It's called perspective.
That's a good word. Yeah.
When you are writing something, let's say you have those 5 pages that you mentioned, and then you reread what you wrote, everything seems important to you at that moment because you just wrote it.
Yeah.
Give yourself a week and come back to it. And suddenly you'll start noticing that some things feel unnecessary. Other things feel like fluff. And some material starts dropping away and shortening your document from 5 pages to maybe 3 pages.
Right.
I recently did a launch where I had to write a webinar script.
Okay.
And knowing myself and knowing the secret of perspective, I started writing well in advance. I gave myself a month. And when I first wrote it, I looked at it and I said, oh my God, this is a 2-hour webinar. It's way too long. How do I bring it down, to 75 minutes? Like that would be ideal.
Yeah.
And I tried to edit it initially and it didn't really work as well as I was hoping. So I let it go. I gave myself a gift of time and space and perspective.
Yeah.
When I came back to it, Michael, I edited it down to 40 minutes.
Wow.
Because all the thoughts and ideas that I was trying to express in so many words felt like, oh, well, I'm already saying it here, or this is not necessary to the core message that I'm trying to express. That perspective, in terms of giving yourself time, is huge.
Yeah.
And then after I completed my webinar, I looked at it again and I thought, oh, I didn't even have to say this. So my final webinar is actually 29 minutes.
Wow.
Down from
That's
2
incredible.
hours. That's how that perspective is important. So start developing whatever you need to develop early enough that you can take time away from it and clear your head and come back to it, and it'll appear to you very differently.
You mentioned webinars. I want to talk about webinars and telesummits and all of that in a second. Before we do that, I have one last question about simplicity. And that's, you have a concept called the simplicity entrepreneurship, the concept of that. What is it? How did you discover it? And how can we apply it to our lives?
Simplicity entrepreneurship, I see it as a trend, as a wave, in response to all the complexity that business is. I look at a guy who's running a Chinese restaurant and I think, he wakes up early in the morning, starts his day with staff, with the kitchen, with all the things he needs to do, with supplies. Then he runs the customer service because it's a very tiny, small restaurant. And he has to do everything, all of it. And he had to build up this whole idea, this Chinese restaurant from scratch. And it was complex. And he had to do whatever he had to do to survive, to feed his family, to build a life here in America, right? How dare I say, to somebody like him, hey, man, you need to simplify your life. he'll think, he'll look at me very strange because to
Right.
him, the most important thing is survival and to be able to provide for his family. That is his life. So businesses like that, and we know that most restaurants statistically go out of business within 5 years. So of course he needs to work extra hard. So we are trained that growing a business, that building a business is complex. It's hard. And what I started seeing when I started researching simplicity is that, yes, business can be complex, but not all the time. In fact,
Yeah.
if you're building your business and you're not aware of this idea of simplicity, you're going to create a business that will always be complex. On the other hand, you might experience temporary complexity, as I call it.
Okay.
Temporarily, it's going to be complex for you when you're learning something new or when you are, stretching yourself outside your comfort zone a little bit here, a little bit there. But on the other side of it, there should be simplicity or it's not worth doing it.
Right.
So, simplicity entrepreneurship, I did not come up with that. I've actually, saw a couple of articles around it, as I started doing some research. A simplicity-driven entrepreneurship is not a brand new thing, but I am so excited to bring more light to this topic because majority of people are trained that building a business is supposed to be hard and they have accepted it.
Right.
Right. And so simplicity driven entrepreneurship really means keeping things as simple as possible when it comes to systems, when it comes to teams, when it comes to management, product development, any area of your business. If you could automate something, then why hire 17 people to accomplish something, right?
Right. Right.
Do you really need that extra program? How will it support your business? Maybe consolidating everything into 3 simple offerings. I used to have, Michael, 22 different products. There was a time in my life, in my business, when I had 22 products.
Wow.
Talk about complexity. I didn't know how to market them, when to market which product, how one is connected to the other. I was just all over the place. And then I ran a company where we had one product. And the simplicity of that was unbelievable. That actually even simplified my networking because all I needed to do was talk about one product, one focus,
Right.
one single thing that was on my mind and that I became known for. That's the simplicity of it.
Speaking of which, one of the areas that you're an expert in, well known in the space of telesummits, and I wanted to make sure we talked about that today because it's very fascinating. We've all heard about webinars. We've all used Zoom or GoToMeeting for virtual meetings. What is a telesummit and how is it different than those? How is it alike and how can we use it?
So a telesummit is a virtual event. By the way, many times telesummits are now called virtual summits because even though it means distance, most people associate the word tele with telephone. And because we have so much new technology that you can use to lead a virtual event, they have now evolved into being called simply virtual summits. But the idea behind a virtual summit is that it's a multi-speaker conference conducted online over the internet and sometimes with a telephone. The concept of a telesummit was born in 2005, and I actually coined the word telesummit. I was looking for a word that would be unique, that didn't yet exist, and that represented a teleconference.
Okay.
But a different kind of word.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the word telesummit didn't exist. I was actually shocked when I looked it up. Nobody was using that word. And so it was born. And my very first telesummit lasted for 2 weeks. And I ended up with 140 people from 11 countries in the world. It seems like a very small group of people right now, but at that time, such a new concept, specifically in my industry, in the coaching industry.
Yeah.
It was very fresh, innovative. And as a work at home mom with 2 small children, to me, it was important not to have to travel too much. And apparently it was important for many other people as well, because after that first summit and after people saw the format and I shared the results of the summit and how I build my following, position myself, build relationships that I'm still in touch with all those people today, it became this amazing format,
Yeah.
strategy to grow your
Yeah.
business. But thousands of summits have been hosted in thousands of different niches since 2005. And I've been really watching it. I've been watching it,
Yeah.
and I've been watching people make mistakes. I've been watching people do them incorrectly. At some point, summits have become marathons of interviews.
Okay.
And that is exactly not what, the way that I created it. The principles behind the summit were very different. So I'm excited to be teaching how to do it the right way.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little bit because, I think of summits, I think of conferences. Of course, one of the best known big conferences out there is the TED Talks, the TED conferences. But then you have, all kinds of different summits, all kinds of different conferences. Assuming that we're taking that principle of the in-person and making it virtual, using that tele for distance and saying we're bringing people all together, what does an actual telesummit look like? What is the format of it?
Well, what's funny, Michael, is a summit or a telesummit does look like a bunch of interviews on the outside.
Okay.
To somebody
All right.
who is attending it, it is a bunch of interviews. However, most summits are simply doing interviews today.
Okay. Yeah.
Very much similar to podcast interviews. And there's a huge difference between a podcast and a summit.
Yeah.
The main difference is that summit is really a training. It's a conference where people come to learn about a specific topic. It is not
Right.
an opportunity for somebody to tell their story, which is often what a podcast is.
Yeah.
Right. And so what it usually looks like on the outside is it's an interview. But when done right, an interview is very content rich, interview based training. In
Right.
fact, we are in 2018 right now. And just recently, I sold the last box of my 2005 Telesummit.
Wow.
Why was it so valuable even, 14 years later? Because I developed it as a valuable content-rich product that simply happened to be in a format of a series of interviews.
Okay.
Right. And so if you understand that that is the foundation of a summit, you will have a much more valuable product, an event. The other piece about it is that to resemble a live event, you need to engage people. You need to bring them in. And most people interview their guests, their summit guests, in isolation from everyone else. Most of the time, they even pre-record it, right?
Yeah.
But the idea behind a conference is that it brings a community of like-minded people together. And most summit hosts don't do that.
I look at summits and I see it as an event around a specific topic with experts sharing about that topic. And how do you make, with a virtual summit, there are a lot of boundaries that are removed that you would typically have in a physical summit: time, distance, schedule. How do you put together a virtual or a telesummit that actually has value and resembles maybe like what you would experience in a traditional in-person event, and make that a reality in that virtual stage where people can engage with the host and with the guests and with each other? How can you create that space to do that?
I mean, the obvious and simple answer is do it live. Do it as a live event. I know that recordings are a way, it's a convenient way for the host to coordinate things with the guests. And logistically, it is definitely easier. I won't, argue that. But the reason most people go to live events, it's for learning and for connecting with a community of like-minded people. Can you recreate that in your virtual event? Absolutely. There is Facebook Live. There is Zoom platforms where you can invite participants to ask questions. There's after parties that you can hold as part of your virtual summit where you allow your guest experts to interact with participants. There's so many ways to create that engagement and an opportunity to connect. So keep that in mind, content and community. Those are the two reasons that people go to events, right? Community, of course, implies connecting with people that you want to connect with for different reasons, business, personal. And if you can replicate that in a virtual environment, you've got a winning summit.
It's such a cool and fascinating topic. I can't wait to learn more from the different resources you have. How can people learn more about telesummits from what you do? And on the broader sense, Simplicity Circle and the world of simplicity, how can they connect with you, find these resources, and really start their journey of expanding their knowledge base and going deeper into these topics?
Yeah. So to get started with the whole idea of summit, if you're curious about it, if you want to learn from the originator of a telesummit, I have a little resource called makeyoursummitSell.com. makeyoursummitSell.com. It's just a quick checklist for doing a virtual summit. And of course, if you are excited and inspired by the idea of simplicity-driven entrepreneurship, definitely check out simplicitycircle.com. It'll give you access to my ebook, The Simplicity Principle. It'll give you access to my free Facebook community called Simplicity Circle as well. And so that is how we can stay in touch.
In a moment, we'll be back for our rapid fire questions with Milana Leshinsky. 2018 is an exciting year for JumboThink, and we have a lot of cool things happening. Our first ever virtual idea camps are coming up. We also have incredible guests lined up for all of 2018 on the JumboThink podcast, and we're offering some great new resources and services. We want to make sure that you never miss anything happening at JumboThink, and there's an easy way to do it. Swing on over to jumbothinkcom and fill out the little pop-up for our newsletter. That way you'll know everything that's going on and exciting launches throughout all of 2018. Again, head on over to jumbothinkcom and fill out that little form for our newsletter. Now let's jump into our rapid-fire questions with Milana Leshinsky. We're back with Milana to talk about rapid-fire questions. Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I think so. Let's see how fast I can think.
Our first question is, what is one tip you would give someone with a big idea and dream and they don't know where to start?
When you don't know where to start, you start with a thing that is the most obvious to you at that time. Otherwise, you'll find yourself overanalyzing.
What is one change you would like to see in the world?
I would love to see more people come from the place of love. A cheesy, cliche answer, but I've recently experienced enough to make me want to say that to that question.
If we operated from a love for others, it would be such a better world. I agree with that completely. Our next question is, what do you want your legacy to be?
I'm frequently asked that question, and I laugh because I'm in my early 40s, and I feel like the word legacy applies maybe to people in their 70s.
Okay.
So if I had to really think, my biggest desire is that my legacy is that I was a great mom.
That's great. That's incredible. Where do you find inspiration?
I find inspiration in entrepreneurship. I'm so inspired. I love entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs who have creative ideas and they take risks and they take a chance to move that idea forward without really knowing if something will work or not, and how passionate and driven entrepreneurs are. So I love watching other entrepreneurs and surrounding myself by entrepreneurs in my life.
What is one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read and why?
I'm looking right at it. It's called Get Unstuck and Get Going. It's by Michael Stanier, Bungay Stanier, a Canadian author. The book is very unique. Each page is cut into 3 sections, so you can actually lift half or a third of a page at a time. And it's filled with anecdotes, stories, and examples to inspire you to get unstuck and get going in whatever challenge you're experiencing in your business or in life.
Love it. That's not one that we've heard on the podcast before. So I love when we have a new resource, a new book that's shared. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I love this book.
What is one tool that is significant for the success of your business?
I will say a mentor
Okay.
is an important tool. I noticed throughout my business journey that when I do have a coach or a mentor, I move faster with more ease and more confidence. When I don't have a coach at any given moment, I allow myself to just sometimes do nothing or to completely fall apart and feel
Okay.
depressed about certain ideas. So I find it very helpful to always have somebody that you can come to and get that shot of encouragement, inspiration, support.
How do you find a mentor? What's your process for finding mentors and coaches that you've used?
When I hired coaches in the past, it would be mainly based on people that I would already know. Somehow they would. In fact, my most important coach came to me because he was a speaker at my telesummit, and I just
Okay.
felt like I want to be in contact with this person as often as possible. But today, with social media out there, you can just watch what people are doing. And
Yeah.
if you're inspired, if you feel connected to their thinking, and if you want to build the kind of business that they have built, if you want to go on the journey that they have gone on, then that's the person that you choose as your mentor.
What is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
At this stage in my business and in my life, I find that the most important thing you can do for yourself is to have things that are not related to business. Otherwise,
Okay.
entrepreneurs can be really glued to their business 24/7. So this is when
Right.
I started taking dance lessons, yoga classes. I walk every day. I got my dogs who need a walk too. So I got other things that take me away from my business. And of course, my children who are now grown, but um, getting away from business also gives you that perspective.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a way to really refresh and recharge and be energized for the future too.
Absolutely.
How do you start and finish your day?
Oh, that is going to be an embarrassing answer. I do start my day with checking my email,
I do too.
which
I hate that I do it, but I do it.
everybody says not to, but it's so convenient. It's right there. I just have to reach my phone on my pillow. But then I try to immediately get myself outside and walking. And I end my day with making sure that I know exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow first thing. So I don't have to make those decisions when I am just waking up my brain.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what would you be doing?
Oh, that one is so easy. I think you might guess the answer.
I think so.
I would be growing a music school.
Very cool. That's very cool. And our final rapid fire question is, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I want to travel more. I'm not going to call myself a traveled person. I've been
Okay.
to a few countries. Obviously, I flew across the ocean. And then when I realized that I can travel to Europe, I actually visited 3 countries 3 years in a row: England, Germany, and Italy, and even learned German just so I could interact with local people. But where I really want
Wow.
to go is further. I would love to go to Australia, New Zealand,
Mm.
um, Asia, Middle East. Like I'm pulled in that direction. I'm not ready yet to do that right now, but that is something that I want to do at some point.
Before we finish the episode, I want to give you a chance to give us one last thought for those who are listening.
There is no guru. You are the guru. And what I mean by that is that there's so many people out there ready to volunteer their advice and opinions and confuse you even further in your journey. So the only person who truly knows what the right thing to do, what the right way to go in the right direction is you. Put your hand on your heart and feel into what you need to do next, what feels obvious, natural, and simple for you as the next step to grow in your business and life.
Milana, it's been so much fun having you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out to share your story. Give us a glimpse into the wisdom of simplicity, the power of telesummits, and just the inspiration of your story. It's just been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Michael. I've enjoyed lots of great tidbits you pulled out of me. And this was an exciting conversation. Thank you again for having me.
Once again, I want to thank Milana Leshinsky for taking time out to share her story and give us insights into the world of simplicity and virtual summits. Our guest on Monday's episode is Mark Mawhinney. Make sure to come back and check out that episode this Monday. As always, we would love to hear from you. Swing on over to jumbothinkcom/contact. Drop us a note. Let us know your story. We'd love to hear your story. We'd love to hear how the podcast has encouraged you and how we can help you in the future as you chase your big idea and dream. As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this one last thought. It comes from Hans Hofmann. He said, "The ability to simplify means to eliminate the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak." Thanks again for tuning into the Jumbothink podcast. We look forward to having you along on our next episode. Until then, go chase that big idea and dream and change the world around you.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.